Hey guys, my name is Rob and I clean cars for a living. So I've had both Swisstrax and epoxy floor for about 5 years now. And there's pros and cons to both of them. I'll tell you, the Swisstrax, if you don't want to watch the whole video, Swisstrax is what I'm going to finish the entire garage in. But I'll break down pros, cons, and what I like about both, what I don't like about both. First is, if you've been looking at them online, you can tell the biggest thing about Swisstrax is first the cost is what deters people from getting it. It's anywhere from $4 to $5 a square foot, depending on who you're buying it for. So my garage is about 650 square feet, and if you're going to do a 3-bay garage like this in all Swisstrax, you're talking several thousands of dollars. You're probably $3,000 plus. I know this must have been, I can't remember the exact amount, but about $1,500, somewhere around that for just this section of the garage. Versus epoxy, I did all the Sealcrete stuff. You can get it right at Lowe's. First you have to wash it. I'll get to that in a second, but it was only about $200 to do the entire garage. So cost, obviously it's better for epoxy, but the rest that's really the main con to epoxy versus Swisstrax. Next would be installation. Swisstrax, I mean, you could do a huge amount, this entire garage probably in 2 hours, and that, if even that, maybe less. You might have to do some cutting around like workbenches or things that are already fixed if you have a lift, but it's really easy. You're gonna do it with an oscillating tool or a drill. You can do it with a ton of different tools. It's really easy to cut. Versus the epoxy flooring, when I put that in, we bought the house and I moved in and the floor was kind of dirty, whatever, and it's a garage, and there's stuff on the walls and yada yada yada. So everything has to come out. If you already live at your house and it's stacked, that's going to be annoying. But we moved in, cleared out the garage, and so I scrubbed it, cleaned it real thoroughly. They have a certain acid wash you can use, and then you put down this kind of adherence, what do you call it, paste, but you put it on with a roller, and it helps the colored layer, the base layer of the epoxy stick. You put that down, then you put down multiple layers of the color, you put down multiple layers of clear, and then you put down, if you want, you should, because they help you grip, you put in these little colored flakes, you sprinkle them everywhere you do, more or less, and then I put one more clear over that. That process, it took a long time. It must have been, just between work and doing everything else, it was probably a week, and couldn't use the garage, and then you can't really park or put anything on it like a freshly painted wall for that entire time. So it just has to sit and wait. So installation sucks on epoxy. And for the amount of work that you have to put in to do that, you kind of want it to last a long time, but it lasts pretty well, but it doesn't last great. And I'll take the camera off the tripod in a minute, and I'll show you some of the spots and just even what I barely had small issues with that shouldn't have been that much of an issue. So as of now, durability with Swisstrax, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not welding and everything. I've seen videos where people weld above it and the flakes don't damage it, but for me, haven't had any issues with the Swisstrax. I've dropped several 100-pound things on it and it hasn't cracked, break. So until we get 20, 30, 40 years down the road, and maybe it starts to degrade and becomes brittle. It might, I don't know, but you can only tell that with time. I don't think this stuff's even been around that long to actually know. Function's the big thing too. So I clean cars. I pull them in the winter, they're salty. I live in New York, they're salty, tons of snow, and it drips off. Or maybe I just need to finish another spray on the car, whatever it is. I typically wash them outside, but then I'll bring them inside to finish them. But water goes right through the Swisstrax and it pools up on epoxy just like it would concrete or anything else. So if you like water and anything else, it will just go through the holes. And so I normally I'm using pressure washer, but I got just a hose kind of show you because it gives a little bit more water. But say you spill a gallon, which doesn't sound like a ton of water or something like that, it becomes a lot. It takes forever to evaporate. And when I'm cleaning cars, if I'm getting in and out of them, spraying chemicals, whatever it is, which I've used a ton of chemicals on this and it hasn't discolored. It's a little dirty for me walking in and out, but like water, you can see on the Swisstrax, yeah, the top is got just a little bit of water on it, but it's not pooling up. Whereas obviously you put it on just concrete floors, it's gonna pool right up. So, and the top of this will dry pretty quickly, but once again, I'm not, you can stomp around in it, whereas you can't do that on this stuff. So if you're a detailer, oh geez, get the Swisstrax, save up the money, it's worth it. With the epoxy, and it's not typically slippery, but if it's clean, if you're somebody that actually cleans the floor, it can be slippery. And depending on what you spill too. If you get, say something like grease or just a little bit of WD-40 on it, slippery, like banana and Mario Kart, bad. Next would be look. That can be subjective, but I like the look of Swisstrax. They have so many different colors, and there is other brands of modular flooring. I don't sell Swisstrax. They don't pay me nothing. I paid for every dollar of this, but I just like the stuff. That's why I'm making a video of it. Look is subjective. The epoxy looks good. Like if this wasn't a thing, I would like the epoxy. I would just have to maybe recoat some stuff every now and then. I don't like doing that, but the epoxy looks good. A lot of people came in before my Swisstrax was in and they liked the way the epoxy looks, but that's subjective. But I like the Swisstrax. It can make all these different, I like the Swisstrax. You can make all these different looks with it. Cleaning wise, both pretty easy. I'll use a power washer because I have a wall-mounted power washer, and I'll spray the floor. I'll use a surface cleaner, one of the like round floor cleaners, spray. I'll use one of those. Sometimes I'll use a little soap, scrub it, and then I'll just squeegee it outside. It takes just a couple minutes. Swisstrax isn't bad. Some people, what they'll do is just take out one row and they'll just basically disconnect it from the rest. They'll just drag it outside and they'll clean it once a year. I don't even do that. I take a leaf blower, I blow them out, I use a vacuum, pulls the majority of the stuff out, and then I'll foam it with a foam cannon, and I'll take just a shop brush, scrub them, clean it again, and then I got fans in here. I'll just open the door and I'll let it all dry out. And it looks great. So maybe just a little bit more involved on the Swisstrax, but not bad. Probably the biggest cons to the Swisstrax, for at least what I found, other than cost, would be if you have a small bolt, you can lose it in there easy. If you drop a little anything, it can take a while. And I've tried some of the stronger magnets just to find stuff, and it doesn't work. So kind of gotta be careful. I mean, in another universe, if you drop a 10 millimeter, it's probably gone. Not really gonna fall through there, but yeah, small bolts. And if you're someone that jacks cars up a lot, I got some stuff to roll around. I'll just show you what the noise level is like. The jacks don't really roll. There is Swisstrax smooth, but I'll get to that in a second. But the jacks, you can't really jack up a car because it doesn't roll well on it. You can just put down a mat or something. That's not a problem. If you're a mechanic, you might want to look into either Swisstrax smooth or maybe just on a small section where if you have to jack up cars, getting something hard for that spot. But if you're a mechanic and you're working on stuff all the time, you probably have a lift and you can cut Swisstrax around the lift. So there's that. Last, some people want to know how well do things roll around on it. I've had things with real small junk casters. They still roll fine. So main is noise. Like actually, this is a Viper chair, and the larger casters roll really well, but they make more noise. I think it's just all the metal is it kind of vibrates around. So I'm gonna move this stuff around. The Viper chair is one of the louder ones, and that and the jack. You can hear it. But then if you go over to the epoxy, it's just about silent. So, but with the jack, I've heard this on recordings too, and I feel like the camera actually makes it seem a little bit louder than it is. Like, it's loud, you know, it's a little noisy for a few seconds, but it's not like, oh my god, I gotta plug my ears. Even on the concrete, you still get a good amount of metallic noise. I got a detail cart and I'll load it up. What I will say is sometimes if you have something top heavy and you're rolling it around on the Swisstrax, it can tip over. Maybe something tips over easy anyways, but a little bit of vibrating going over the grooves can sometimes tip stuff over. You can kind of see how the stuff shakes at the top. But I don't know if this is going to be the camera, but over here it doesn't. And even vacuum. To me, that's such a small thing, just a little bit of noise. I don't care about that. So I'm excited. I'm gonna finish the garage with Swisstrax, do a different color. You can see kind of see over there, I've cut around, and let me get the camera off and I'll show you the floor on the epoxy. All right, so I didn't park anything in my garage for almost a month when we first moved in. And you can probably even guess what kind of tires most of these are. Those are KO2s. It left brown marks like crazy. And under the Swisstrax is a spot I parked a motorcycle a few times, and those were near black marks. Any sort of oil or coolant is gonna strip this off. And I've done it everywhere on this. And I have small cracks, no big deal on the concrete, but you can't see it with the Swisstrax. This, I parked my little tractor in here with a plow on it and it's stained, which, I mean, you probably expect it to from the rust, but I have actually parked it over here too, and there's no marks on the floor. I wasn't over concerned about some super precision, but if you have something on the ground, you gotta park it. Cut it. Why is it park it? So yes, just all in all, based on the time that it takes to install something, you know, put this on the floor, even though it is cheap, it sucks that this is happening. It is 5 years, but coating it the first time is one thing, doing it another time is drastically more work. You can't just do a simple wash and put it back on. At least that's what I've been told. So me personally, I'm gonna ante up and just pay for the rest of the Swisstrax and enjoy the benefits of it. If you like the video, let me know, comment, like it, subscribe. Still using an old camera and still kind of new to this, so if you have any tips or tricks for YouTube and video making, let me know. All right, thanks, bye.